Okay, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Friday's wonderful world history class. I'm gone at the football conference, so I had to come up with a different way in which I could have class, make sure we're still getting something out of it, and keep moving forward to the end of the semester. First, what we want to do today is we want to review what it is that we talked about in chapter 13, lesson number 2. We want to review who the first and main explorers are in the age of exploration, that being Portugal and Spain. And we want to talk about some of the guys that existed within them first as a review. Most noteworthy for the Portuguese was Henry the Navigator. Second after that was Bartholomew Diaz, who reached the tip of Africa and made it only halfway to India. And then there was Vasco da Gama, who made it all the way to India. After going with that idea, looking at Spain, Spain had two very noteworthy figures, that being Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan. Christopher Columbus was the Italian who sailed for Spain because nobody else would have him. Ferdinand Magellan was the man who circumnavigated the earth, even though he really never made it all the way around himself. His ships and a few of his crew members had made it as well. Then we went later on and talked about the Amerindian civilizations. These were civilizations that had been here on continental North and South America for a long period of time. They had a couple main regions: northeast, southeast, far west, and the west coast and southwest. The Indians of the Central and South Amerindian groups were the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incas. The Mayans settled in the area known as the Yucatan Peninsula, and I can probably get off of here real quick and go to a map and show you where that is again if you don't know where it is. Yucatan Peninsula, located right there, just a little bit a ways from Cuba in the continent of North America. If you are looking at the Incas were primarily down in this area in Chile and Peru, along the Andes Mountains. And then you had the Aztecs that were in the northern portion of Mexico. Back to the Mayans. Noted for their artistic and intellectual achievements. Not a unified nation, they were polytheistic. They developed hieroglyphics and studied astronomy. The Aztecs, everybody fought in the army, better fighters than governors. You didn't want to get caught by the Aztecs, because if you did, their prisoners were then sacrificed to the gods, and you ended up on somebody's lunch plate. The Incas actually had a genuine empire. Looking at the Spanish explorers, talked about four main ones in the beginning here. They were all conquistadors, and conquistadors were these kinds of people. They searched for riches, evangelized to the Indians, established Spanish authority. Balboa, we talked about how he founded and named the Pacific Ocean. Hopefully he wasn't the first one to actually find it. Tried up on made-up charges and beheaded. People must have loved him. Cortez is associated with the Aztecs. He defeated the Aztecs in 1521. The Aztecs thought that he was a returning god. Built the modern-day city of Mexico on the ancient remains of the city of Tenochtitlan. Pizarro was a very cruel conquistador. He plundered the gold supplies of the native people, went pillaging and fighting against those people for 5 months. Killed a king, even though when he promised to give him away when he got the money. Cruel, just ended up getting killed by his own people too. You got to learn not to be a jerk when you're a ruler over people. Las Casas was a Roman Catholic friar. Studied, wrote books, became a missionary. Was really kind of more in tune with getting equal rights to the people in North America, South America, than the Amerindian groups. instead of them being turned into slaves. Other Spanish explorers, you got De Soto, Mississippi River, Coronado. Coronado studied Colorado, or got Colorado, he explored the region of Arizona, New Mexico, Kansas, and Texas. Then we talked about some French explorers, Cartier, Champlain, Marquette, Joliet, and LaSalle. And then we got into talking about our good friend here, our Dutch friend Hudson, our English friend John Cabot, and Pocahontas's boyfriend James John Smith. We then went down and talked about more Portuguese people, Cabral, Albuquerque. Cabral established trading ports in India. Albuquerque was a viceroy, kind of like a governor towards all the English or the Portuguese landholdings in the east. The Dutch, they did their thing. They also were down in Java and Sumatra. Get to the map on that one real quick. Java, Sumatra, right in this area right here. I think between these two, that's where you would be. The Dutch had land. And the English destroyed the Spanish Armada, seized control of the Persian Gulf. For those of you studying at home, the Persian Gulf is right here in this region, right between Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. So that stands as your review, ladies and gentlemen, for chapter number 13, lesson number 2. Moving on, chapter number 13, lesson number 3, we're going to be concentrating on our thoughts on the idea of the age of exploration and discovery, but mostly focusing on the commercial revolution. And the commercial revolution is a lot of different things. You got to remember, during the commercial revolution, during the end of the age of exploration, during the 15th and 16th centuries, Europe went under a lot of political and social and religious changes. Economically, they went through a lot of changes as well. Land ownership was no longer the means by which people would base wealth. You know, if you look down here, it was money, it was gold, it was gold and silver. Those are known as species. Copper, it was other things that gave you wealth. You know, with all these changes going on, the commercial revolution and buying and selling and making money and gaining wealth, those things became extremely important. So in this lesson, what we want to do is we want to talk about the commercial revolution and what it was and how it impacted, what it was caused by, and how it impacted the world, Europe. We also want to talk about mercantilism, a new system of gaining wealth. We want to talk about capitalism, which is our modern way in which we gain wealth. We are a capitalistic country for as long as we can be. We want to talk about capital is. We want to talk about what dividends are. Understand what a joint stock company was during the commercial age. And we want to find out what an underwriter is. And just an insight to you so you have a little bit of an understanding. An underwriter is basically one of the very first forms of an insurance company. So that being said, I've got a quick, probably about a 4-minute video that I'm going to play here off of YouTube. You got the address here, but I'm going to play it. Make sure you pay attention to the volume on your computer because it might be a little bit loud and crackly. The message is important, and I want to make sure that you understand what the commercial age is, commercial revolution is. So I'll load it up here and find it. That's the guy right there. I'll make the screen a little bit bigger. And press play.
In the Crusades, trade and finance increased. Merchants in Italy carried crusaders to the Middle East on their ships. Before returning to Italy, these merchants purchased exotic goods from China and India. Then they come across the Silk Road. In Europe, The demand for these foreign goods increased rapidly, and Italian merchants became very powerful and fought to protect their stake in Mediterranean sea trade. Also, craft workers began to make more goods as well, and these goods were traded all over Europe. Towns held fairs each year, and the merchants there sold cloth, food, leather, and other wares. Now, changes in the way goods were produced and sold were going to begin to happen in the High Middle Ages. A new economic system emerges. This economic system, capitalism, is created. And in this economic system, people own their own businesses and keep the profits that their business earns. Merchants banded together in an organization called a guild. And a merchant guild worked to get the best prices for their goods. And later, workers are going to form craft guilds too. They were made up of groups of workers who did the same type of job. These included bakers, tailors, and glassmakers, and others as well. Merchants set standards and prices for their products, and they also made rules for young people learning the craft. In northern Germany, a group of merchant guilds called the Hanseatic League controlled trade routes in the North and Baltic Seas and between German cities. These guilds banded together to protect trade within their communities. With more trade, merchants needed more cash, and they had to borrow the money to buy the goods to sell. They needed new ways to get cash and loans to exchange different types of money. The church had rules against charging a fee for loaning money. Jews who were outside the church became the chief sources of loans, but later the church relaxed its rules. Then Christians began to form banks. The expansion of trade and changes in banking practices was called the Commercial Revolution. In the early 1100s, the population of Western Europe grew quickly, and trade was booming. Towns grew larger and more important. Towns, though, were dirty places with narrow streets. Wooden houses in the towns were fire hazards. Still, many preferred living in these communities than on a lord's manor. Many peasants fled the manors to live in the growing towns. After living there a year and a day, many of them claimed to become free. Many town residents, known as burghers, were part of the merchant class. Burghers organized themselves to fight against the interference of feudal lords who lived far away on their manors and were interfering in their business and trade. This new middle class in Europe helped to change the social order by demanding more rights for town dwellers. In addition, geographically speaking, the climate in Europe became warmer as well between the years of 800 and 1200, and this was going to help farming. Farmers also developed better ways to produce crops too. A new harness made the use of horses possible. Horses pulled plows, and horses could do twice the work of oxen. Farmers also used a new method of rotating their crops that they planted in different fields. They planted 2/3 of their fields, leaving 1/3 unplanted. This three-field system helped farmers to grow greater amounts of food, and the increased production of food helped to feed the growing population in the towns and cities of Western Europe. And all these changes in Europe were great until all of this trade was not only going to bring all types of trade goods and exotic things that people had a new demand for, and it wasn't only going to make merchants rich, it was also going to bring something that no one predicted, something that was going to devastate Western Europe. So we'll have to wait until next time to find out. And until next time, Mr. Sullivan out.
Okay, well, there you go. There's your video. Talking a little bit there. I gotta make sure I keep moving here because I'm running out of time with my other video that I'm making here. All right, so the Industrial Revolution, or the Commercial Revolution, had to do with a lot of the growth of wealth. So, like I had said before, from the beginning here, mercantilism. Well, we'll get to mercantilism. These are the things that we want to pay attention to. Okay, so first thing we want to talk about is mercantilism. I think I have to probably break out of this and press pause on my tape because it only takes 15-minute segments. So bear with me as we get out of this segment and move on to another one.